At the moment, it's all the algorithm-based training apps that are out there. They are populating people's lives.
How, like, wearable tech and things like that can translate into real health. You've done hyperbaric chambers, red light therapy, PMF, breathwork. There's so many options for people to choose from.
I said there's power in this. More men need to exercise and talk. I just started working with Movember. It was Men's Suicide Awareness Month. All these things started kind of coming together.
So today's guest has worked with more marathon runners than probably anyone else in the last decade. He's helped thousands of London Marathon charity runners cross the finish line. He has an understanding of wellness tech to enhance health, combining that with breathwork and longevity science. But his biggest impact, the Flawed Hero Marathon. He's a coach and a man with some stories, from racing across America to running the London Marathon dressed as a bear. Phil, welcome to the show.
Buddy, what an intro. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been
No
a while,
worries.
my friend. It's been a while. Thank you. Gosh, a lot there. There's a lot there.
Yeah, a lot to unpack in this one. So you've had a fascinating career with sports science, biomechanics, life coaching, and now into sort of the deep health optimization. Looking back, what was sort of your biggest turning points, or how did you get from there to where you are now?
Really good question, buddy. I think as I'm in my 40s now, I think you look back at different decades, different chapters with a different viewpoint. It starts from childhood, as a lot of us in this arena do, heavily involved in sport, competitiveness, wanting to win, lots of learnings that end. And then I just went through my life trying to succeed and achieve and always want to win. Did sports and material science at the University of Birmingham, which I loved, and actually left with my degree. Wasn't sure what to do, and ended up falling into a job role within almost the London Marathon. So I actually started working with the London Marathon from 2005 with their digital platform. And I've just evolved. I just kind of observe a lot. I do a lot of observing, watching others, watching trends, and just having rock solid values and belief systems. And that's it. But understanding, first it was intrinsic biomechanics. I couldn't understand why everyone was getting injured training for the London Marathon. So I wanted to understand that. And then more mindset stuff. So looking at more NLP, clinical hypnotherapy, life coaching side of things. And now we've gone into this world of health optimization and other modalities, which 10 years ago, I would have probably laughed at myself for even suggesting I'll be standing without shoes in the grass, this sort of thing, So
Yeah.
there's been a few turning points. A lot of them, I think, have been driven by lifestyle and kind of life things, personal life. But now I've got a lot of purpose, a lot of a big fat why, which drives me doing what I do now.
We said at the beginning, you've worked with thousands of marathon runners, London from 25 to, 05 all the way to current day, presumably. What would you say is the biggest thing most people get wrong when it comes to training for an endurance event?
I'm going to separate that. I think endurance events are different. I specialize in London Marathon because for me, it's not a running event. It's a glorified fun run life coaching event. And I think the big problem is the dropout rates are due to people following pressures of training plans that are written by really good running coaches for people who love running, which, for the greatest respect of a charity London Marathon runner, isn't the clientele. These people are running for a particular cause, a lost loved one or a bucket list thing. We need to understand that there's more to doing the London Marathon than just running. So I think it's information, it's content, and I think it's understanding conversations with ego and purpose. And I just see things a little bit differently. So typically 20-25% of the people that sign up to the London Marathon 5 or 6 months out won't make the start line. Charities I work with, we got that down to pre-COVID times to single figure digits and down to probably about 5 or 6% dropout rate average, because I was bringing the information back, getting people to pre-training training plans, the intrinsic biomechanics world, other modalities, health before performance in terms of nutrition, balance. We're only as good as our recovery. This isn't we've got to match our input and output. So these are things, particularly in the last couple of years since COVID, since my awareness of tech has come in, where I'm really looking at understanding how to prescribe different modalities differently. So I think it's understanding what the goal is on a deep level. I think for a lot of endurance runners, it's not doing the other stuff. They just run. So it's not switching things up. It's not looking at strength work. It's not looking at recovery, sleep. It is just run from what I see.
When you just said from changing from endurance to marathon to actually it's just a really glorified fun run, made me feel like, oh, it's just a fun run. okay, cool. Like take that pressure off. And if I'm then Googling how to run a sub 4 hour, 4.5 or 5 hour marathon, it's be like, right, you've got to make sure you get up at 6 o'clock and do this. And you're like, hang on, I've got kids, I'm grieving, or I'm going through some treatment myself, or whatever. The whole picture, understanding like your journey all so far has come to, I need to understand this a bit more. I can add that to my toolbox, understand this a bit more, and move from there. Really, that you're creating a partnership where this is the event you want to do, these are the skills we have, these are the modalities we have, let's build that partnership up. And speaking of partnerships, you were able to get a multi-year deal with Nike with a partnership. What was that experience like, and how did that come about?
So I had a conversation with Nike probably about 12 years ago, met up with them, head of running, head of sports in the UK, and told them what I did in my niche. I work, again, very closely with a number of charities, and I can say with conviction that I've probably got more charity runs on the start line of the London Marathon than anyone in the last 12 to 13 years. Explain my niche, explain what I was up to, my dropout rates, percentages, my mindset. And they were like, we love this. How can we help you? I was like, I'm not sure. I didn't know actually how they could help me at the time, and let that be. I really just focused on the stewardship and kind of what I was doing. And then someone got in contact with me from Nike a couple of years ago, and they said, "Can we come in and have a chat?" Of course. So I went in there with a chat and explained more what I was up to and how I've kind of shift changed and looking at more different modalities of wellness rather than just running and London Marathon. And um, I didn't realize that in the background they were setting up something called the Nike Well Collective. So Nike historically has all been about win the best, all that sort of stuff. And they moved away from that. It's returning, moved into more kind of different avenues of wellness and modalities of breathwork and yoga and Pilates and all these other cool things, which I think is really important.
Hmm.
And that's it. I was invited to be one of the first 200 coaches in Europe to be part of the Nike Well Collective, and really exciting, humbling. And was in Amsterdam in 2023, and that's kind of that on top of a few other moving parts, with the reason why I set up the Flawed Hero Marathon, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah. As we mentioned it, we may as well jump onto that because obviously it's making waves. Obviously, it sparks some of the idea then from that. But what else? Why would it make a difference in comparison to other races? And what's the real sort of message of the program?
Right. So, like I said, I've been involved with the London Marathon forever. Love the event. I still prefer the old school Flora London Marathon back in the day. It's still kind of where my heart is. And yeah, I love the London Marathon. I love what it's about. I love the stories. I love celebrating people that never thought they could achieve anything. And actually, I've been blessed every year for the last 20 years to be, at the finish line, watching people cross that finishing line, and to watch someone who's been hobbling go, run past the palace, run down the Mall, and you just see the shift change. You can see their bodies change. They look up, you see the finishing line, and that self-worth that they achieve, that leveling up of their own worth when they cross that finish line is like nothing else. And I love that. I love want to give, it's a gift to people that they don't understand. It's one of those things, if you know, you know. So I was basically the month before I went to Amsterdam with Nike. I walked a marathon from Wembley to Wickham. It was for prostate cancer. I carried a full-size cardboard cutout of my father because he passed away 2 years prior, 2 weeks after our wedding. So world's biggest Wickham Wanderers fan. Prostate cancer, had the Jeff Stellings football march, which he retired from, but he came back because his colleague, Bill Turnbull, had prostate cancer, passed away, and he was a massive Wickham fan. And he said, right, I'm coming out of retirement. I'll do one more from Wembley to Wickham. I was like, come on now. Home of football to my dad's home of football. This is what I'm going to do. So it was an early start. We got to Wembley, and that's it. Mostly guys, lots of women too, but mostly guys. And what I loved about it was there's no metric of time being that level of success. And you touched on the sub 4 hour thing, which is the biggest bane in my life when it comes to the London Marathon. It's where people put so much focus on a time metric, which is kind of irrelevant. So what the beauty I saw of this event was guys just walking, talking. Simple as that, just walking, talking, letting stuff off their chest, letting go, very much attached to prostate cancer. And it was just beautiful. It took us all day. It wasn't about performance. It was letting go. It was that therapy piece and everything. And I was like, this is brilliant. This is great. So that sparked something in me. Then when I went to the Nike Well Collective launch, big presentation, and their first drive was for women, and I understand why, but it made me think, what about the guys here? Guys who wear the same pair of shorts for 20 years. I know what we do.
Yeah.
They're not going to. So I understand what was going on, and I was like, I can't let the guys be forgotten. I said, there's power in this. More men need to exercise and talk. I just started working with Movember. It was Men's Suicide Awareness Month. All these things started kind of coming together. And I had this brand, Flawed Hero, which came about 7 years prior, where single dad at the time, picked up my daughter from school. She was 7. Her teacher said to me, Mr. Roberton, can I have a word, please? And I said, of course. She said, we've just done a PSHE lesson. And the subject was, we're all living longer in life. And the likelihood is the majority of us are going to get cancer. I was like, well, that's quite a heavy subject for a 7-year-old, but okay, I'll address that after. She said, your daughter, who wouldn't say boo to a goose, put her hand up and said, Miss, I won't get cancer. My daddy won't let me. And as you just did that, it hits you like, how, it gives me goosebumps now. It's that I love you. There's things I can and can't do. I'll protect you. So I had to deliver that in a certain way, but it made me realize those of us that are lucky enough to have a child, fortunate, get to be, they look at us like we're heroes. But you know, they're our real heroes. They teach us everything. We have a responsibility to let them know that we're not perfect. We're flawed. So this whole flawed hero, I was like, I'm my daughter's flawed hero. That was it. So I parked it for 7 years. Didn't do anything with it. I knew I liked it, parked it. And then, yeah, that was it. I was in Amsterdam. Men had been forgotten, walked this marathon, thought, right, this is what I'm going to do. So I landed back from Amsterdam, put a post online saying, I will be at the Broadway Cinema in Letchworth, where I live, at midnight, the day of the London Marathon. Because since COVID, there's been a virtual event called the London Marathon My Way, which is a 24-hour event you can do anywhere in the world, done by a GPS and an app. So you can get a London Marathon medal anywhere in the world. So I just combined it all. That was it. So I said, right, I don't care I haven't forgotten about you guys. Whatever shape, size, color, it doesn't matter. We're all the same. I'll be there. So that was it. We had 40 guys join me at midnight. I had a guy with cerebral palsy walking it. I had a guy with MS walking it. I had guys running it, running it. And it was just going to be a one-off. And we went through the night. It was beautiful, mate. It was just beautiful. And realized that actually I've created something here a little bit different. So I've now created, I believe it's the most inclusive, but done the right way, supported marathon in the world. So we raised a lot of money for men's mental health. The Flawed Hero Marathon is now a thing. It's chip timed. We've got 100 people now in Letchworth this year going the same day of London. My take is all the elite athletes are getting all the shine at the moment. All the celebs get all the glory for London Marathon. I like the stories at the back of the pack. That's what I'm after. And I don't care how slow you are, we will be completed before the fastest people on the planet have stepped foot in Blackheath. That's my storytelling. So it's fully supported. We have a hotel restaurant open up all night for us exclusively. It's 1.65 mile laps. We start with a beautiful cinema. I've got 2 pubs open up all night playing music. It's just well supported, super inclusive. I've got a guy in a wheelchair. Shout out to Stephen Salmon, one of my favorite stories ever. He's the fastest non-race wheelchair athlete at London Marathon. Did it in 2 hours 57. Since then, his health has declined. He's doing my Flawed Hero Marathon, then getting the train to London to do the London Marathon straight after. I've got a guy, shout out to Adam, stage 4 incurable cancer. He's cracking on. We've got Jack with cerebral palsy returning. We've got Michael with MS returning. I've got Laura, who was the first woman to ever carry a fridge on her back at last year's London Marathon. I've got a vet doing it in a mobility scooter. I've got all these stories and people, and we're all the same. We're all flesh and blood. We're all the same. And on the night, midnight, we're going to go together as one, but collectively so much more. So we're trying to raise £100,000 for Pancreatic Cancer UK, who are the official charity of the London Marathon. So all these puzzle pieces of passion and kind of life experiences have just kind of slotted in together. So the Flawed Hero Marathon has now turned into the Flawed Hero movement, which is a non-profit that I've set up this year, which will be going towards many, many initiatives within my community.
Wow. And again, it's a partnership. It's understanding there's a whole thing. It's better to be active and do something than it is to try and set all these conditions and hurdles that we can potentially fail at, that you just think, okay, I'll turn up at midnight. Worst case scenario, I'm going to listen to some good music, have some good food and just walk and chat. And actually, as we know, as men, unfortunately, we don't necessarily talk as much as we perhaps should do. But if you're walking and talking, it's amazing just having somebody by the side of you and not looking at you, how much more you can open up. And you'd be like, hang on, okay, they're turning up and they've got this, but that seems very similar to me. This is really cool. There's somebody else out there suffering or going through the same challenges that I'm going through or they're going through, which is incredibly powerful.
For me, it's an event about perspective. One, it's inclusive. And look, life is tough. Life is hard, not easy. Life is really, really tough. And it's not about a game of one-upmanship or going, well, they've got it much worse than I have. It's all relative to your own life experience. My dream is it's on the night when times are tough, You look across and you'll see Jack with cerebral palsy, just resilience and beautiful characteristics like that. It just helps you realize you are not alone. You're not alone. And so there's even more purpose and passion in this year's event. One of the guys that ran last year, Ping, he took his life in November. So actually, one of the first 40 guys to take part, a big driver who I set up in the first place, sadly took his life in November. And we've got his close friends, got his sister taking part this year as well. So it's that massive passion piece that we've got to get, not just men, but everyone needs to start talking more and sharing and realizing that we're not alone.
Which is huge, really. And again, it's almost going to be creating a legacy for those other families to remember that they've done that, they've been part of something, there's help out there, there's support out there. And it's just, like I say, I suppose just having fun, as we said at the very beginning, taking it out of, we must achieve this, this and this. It's like, okay, come for fun, come for this, and come for togetherness.
And that's still with the London Marathon. I touched on it before, you touched on it, is this is magic sub 4 hour thing that everyone throws around, and like only 1% of the population have done a marathon, right? And I think it doesn't matter how quickly you do London, the majority of charity runners are first time marathon runners. You're guaranteed a PB. It doesn't matter what time you say you do. On the Monday morning when you're full of pride, you've got this medal around your neck. The only thing people ask you is, how long did it take you? It doesn't matter what number you give them. One, they don't understand the context of it. And two, unless you're doing sub 4, it's not an achievement. And the only reaction they give you is because they don't understand what it's about. And the beauty of the midnight marathon is no one asks you how long did it take you. They ask you, why on earth would you do that? And your response is, because I can. That is it. Mic drop, done. It just changes the story, changes the narrative. And the other thing I like about it is, like I said, life is tough. We have ups and downs, and also we have darkness and night, right? For me, it's you've got to go through the dark times to appreciate the light, and that's quite symbolic of what this midnight marathon is. So you start at night time. The first couple of laps are really exciting. Everyone's asleep. Then it gets cold and it gets tough. You've got to experience those tough few laps. But then you hear the birds come out, and then the sun rises, and you go through that process and journey. So, like I said, it was going to be a one-off, but what I think I've created is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. And we'll definitely put a link at the bottom for people to come and join either this year or the following year. We're talking a lot about marathons and things, and you've done the London Marathon in a mascot suit, but you've also raced across America. What were those sort of challenges like for you, or what were sort of for you to take on?
So the race across America was in 2009. I was invited to be a joint crew chief in the race across America, the hardest race on the planet. It's, as a solo rider, you've got to go from west to east 3,000 miles in under 13 days. So Jim, he did it 2 years prior, and then we did it in his third year. We did it in 10 days, 20 hours and 90 minutes, I think. He'll shoot me for not getting the accurate timings, but what it made me realize is what the body's capable of, and actually how sleep deprivation is a form of torture. And actually some of the PTSD that I got on that trip was amazing. Like for the first 2 days, I slept for no more than 20 minutes combined, and then no more than 2 hours a day for the next 8. And it got to the point where I think when we got to Jefferson City, I was in a lead, or I was in the supplementary follow car, because you leapfrog, and I was trying to get some sleep, drifted off, but I basically woke up and I hallucinated that our rider had cycled past. I could see him cycle past. So I started the car, drove off a little bit, and then I saw him get off his bike and 2 of our crew wheeling back towards the RV. So I was like, what are they doing? So I turned the car around, drove past the RV, and I couldn't see him. As I'm driving down the road, this guy comes trying to wave my attention. It was where we were was one of the 52 checkpoints across America that you've got to reach. And he's like, I wound the window down. And he said, hey man, why are you driving the wrong way down the road? And I said, didn't register. I said, have you seen Jim? He said, why? And he said, well, Jim hasn't come past yet. So Jim was still an hour, 2 hours behind. I hallucinated the whole thing. Anyway, so yeah, it was savage. And when I came, yeah, it's tough. So it's just interesting what the body's capable of, dynamics, how people operate under stress. And actually, if I went back now, I'd do things a lot differently, for sure.
Yeah, wow.
But in terms of running in the Bear, that was my highlight. Again, I've done the London Marathon numerous times. I've done it for different reasons. I've paced people. I've done it as fundraising events. The one thing I've always wanted to do is run with a partner across the finishing line. That for me would be cool. And I looked after the Great Ormond Street charity team in 2023, and they were charity of the year, and it was cool. They asked me to be their mascot, so I was their big 7-foot mascot and ran it. It was amazing. Hot, sweaty, uncomfortable, but actually amazing. It's crossed the line with my wife was just amazing. So a great experience.
And if we go beyond running for a moment, your work in health and wellness is just, again, another tip of the iceberg that we're going to dive into. And you're exploring, earlier on you said how like wearable tech and things like that can translate into real health. Can we dive into that? You've done hyperbaric chambers, red light therapy, PMF, breathwork. There's obviously so many options for people to choose from. How would somebody looking into it, with all the wearable that's available and all the ice baths that we see everywhere and all the breathwork stuff, where would somebody start from that wants to maybe get 2 or 3% better in their life?
I think understanding that it's more holistic wellness is where it's at. I think there's a lot of tech out there. There's some brilliant technology out there. My answer would be nature has the answer for everything. It does. I think we overcomplicate a lot. We can breathe better for sure. Breath work for me, the understanding the synergy between changing your physiology and changing your psychology is massive. And the ability to do that through breath work is amazing, and it's free. So I'd start looking at probably breath work as a way to handle stress and do stress better for sure. And we'll link into the ice baths shortly because I think they tie in quite nicely. I
Yeah.
think getting the right amount of sunlight, I think getting fresh air, I think movement, I think grounding's fab to get your shoes and socks off, and actually getting nature is amazing for you. Getting sunlight. So I think nature's the answer for all of it, and I think eating better, a lot of this stuff's free, but the tech is out there too. So you mentioned kind of PMF work. We both got Accelerate. Shout out to Andy, incredible
Yeah.
product that we both use. I use it on a daily basis. It's fab. It helps my sleep. It helps me meditate. It helps me recover. All these things have a cost element, but actually, if you can afford it, they impact the family massively. The red light panels are fantastic for various reasons. We've got hyperbaric chamber here as well. So I love the world of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Cold water immersion is massive as well. It's slightly different having a cold shower. I did some work with Brass Monkey last year because I wanted to understand that as a modality. I've never really done it before. My wife, my birthday last year, the year before, she sent me an advanced Wim Hof ice bath day. So I went there completely out of my comfort zone. Loved the breath work, understood that, got in the ice bath, hated it. Loved the feeling after, but hated it. And I got through it through sheer will, determination, and just tensing up and getting just clock watching, I think is probably,
Yeah.
in all fairness. The ice bath got delivered from Brass Monkey, great product. And I got in it at 10 degrees and I wanted within seconds to jump out because my fear started taking over. I suddenly started to think, I'm going to be exposed here. As a man, I've promised I'm going to do content. I'm going to be vulnerable. One, I'm going to be in my swimming trunks exposed. But secondly, actually, that I'm going to be rubbish at this. And that was all a conversation with ego. So it's really interesting. So I went from that to over a few months, just understanding the modality and get to a point where 0 degrees, not that it's important to be there, but actually I can get there and I can stay there and not fight it and surrender. It's really interesting to then take people through that coaching experience of cold water immersion and actually how to prescribe it correctly. So often when I have people do it, I don't give them too many cues. I want to see how they handle that reaction, that initial, how are you going to do stress? What is showing up? And then you coach the cues. And actually, when people start surrendering, you can see their bodies change. You can see the water change when they're in there and they understand it. It's beautiful. And that's, for me, really important. So I'd encourage people to go down that route. But again, like all these things, they're very strict. I've also got, infrared sauna. I think it's a brilliant place for infrared saunas. They're fantastic. They've got to be prescribed the right way because they are stressful on the body. And you've got to make sure your body is not constantly inflamed. We've got to make sure you're putting the good stuff in, not just expecting lots out of it. So I've all these different modalities, all these other products, and I've used them how I see fit, what my body needs. Because I noticed you had a ultra human on your ring,
Yeah.
and I was fascinated with wearables. I used Whoop for a couple of years, really interested in HRV and recovery. I said before the call that I think the data there is very easy, it's brilliant, but very almost gamified. And I think, I've become a little bit too obsessed with it. So I put that to one side. Went on to the Ultra Human, great bit of kit, slightly different. The metrics are harder to understand, which actually was a benefit because I didn't dive quite so deep, but I gave some great sleep insights. So it changed how I slept. Now I'm taking some time off from it because I think it's healthy. So I'll take a few months off and then reassess where I'm at.
We come back to, you mentioned Wim Hof there as well in those days and breath work, and you say those are quite free things to do. But there's also, if we go and search the internet for breathwork, we come up with a plethora of different things. And there's loads of different modalities to breathe. Do we breathe sat up? Do we breathe outside? Do we breathe in a lotus position? Do we breathe in this way? It's just, people can just start simply by breathing deeply and just controlling 2 breaths in, 3 breaths out, something like that. Wherever they are on their bus stop, they don't have to try and hold their breath for 2 minutes like some of the Wim Hof stuff and go from there. And I think it links nicely back into what you were saying with the London Marathon, is actually it's just a fun run for charity runners rather than it's a big sporting event and we must achieve these things. The same with like our health. There's all this tech out there, but actually let's strip it back and we go, okay, we don't necessarily have a cold ice bath. You can find an open lake to go and do it in. This free, obviously make sure you're doing it safely. Or even you start with a cold shower that you've got in your house. So there's lots of entry points, but I think sometimes people feel I'm not doing it right. And I find an interesting thing, and you mentioned of watching people get into the cold bath or the ice bath are just coach the cues. So you're coaching them at their level. A bit like if I came to you and said, right, I'm signing up for the London Marathon with this charity. I've never run before. Where do I start? And you'll be like, okay, well, let's start with the basics. How stressed are you? How much sleep do you get? What's your driver, and work with that rather than go, right, you need to go out and buy this pair of shoes, this pair of shorts, this tech, and you need to be running 5 days a week from next week, and you need to be running 6-minute miles. It's completely different.
Love all this. No, it's again for me. It's I think people get too caught up in the how rather than the why. So I think particularly with London Marathon, it's all how do I do it? The how's simple. It's one foot in front of the other. That is it. That's as simple as it is. That's it. You can walk it. I had a guy that walked a marathon last week in training preparation in 5 hours 45 minutes. Now, if someone told me they'd run a marathon in 5 hours 45, I'd be very impressed. You could walk it. So it's a game of one foot in front of the other. It's the why, and I think we're not I never tell people we're training for a marathon. You never do that. We're training for life. The fact is, as a byproduct, we're able to do incredible achievements and do marathons because we can. But it should be, how am I showing up day by day? Otherwise, if it's all kind of goal driven and not purpose driven, you'll do the London Marathon, you have the highest of highs. Honestly, it's such an incredible achievement. And the amount of people have post-marathon blues is enormous. It's a massive achievement. And then that void to fill isn't there anymore. So they spiral. They don't then run for a few weeks. They then consume the amount of calories, maybe slightly have depressed feelings, and they eat differently. Then they'll put on their shorts, which will then 4 weeks later be slightly shorter because they haven't exercised. They won't be able to run down the road. And then they're hit with this, I ran a marathon last month, I can't run down the road. And it's just, it spirals. So I think it's what's next. I think you have to do these events and then go, right, what's next? What should I do now? What am I capable of? And just be excited about progress rather than bucket list. I think if we just focus on one thing, we're setting the bar far too low. I think we can all set the bar higher, is what I think.
I suppose that then ties in nicely then with how the foundation started with with the men's mental health, and then with the tech that we've just spoken about, or longevity health is stress management. And men's mental health and stress management are huge topics right now around everywhere. What do you think would be one of the most underrated tools for dealing with stress, or that can really help people?
Really, that's such a layered thing.
Yes.
I think.
So I need to maybe distill it.
No, it's all good. I think environment is everything. I think it's really addressing your environment, getting off these devices. I think sleep hygiene would be something to really, really look at, and cleaning up your diet for sure. But I think we get addicted to stress. So I had a breath coach in 2017, and I had a really tough year. And I remember I wore stress as a badge of honor. It was like, bring it on. What's next? I can take more. Come on, bring it. And he just told me that you're wearing it as a badge of honor, but actually you've just become exceptional at suffering. And it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. I was like, oh man, but we do. You get on that wagon, your body almost becomes addicted to being sympathetic. It's like fight, fight, fight. Cool. I will sleep rubbish. I'll show you. I'll drink. I'll go to the gym. I'll get in great shape. But that's all external. So I think healthy boundaries are important as well. I'd really look at who's in your life. For sure. Are people helping, hindering? Are you outgrowing, or have you been outgrown by people? I think it's naturally as you get older, I think you need to be okay with leaving certain things in the past and moving on.
Which is quite, again, all of these things are for free.
Yeah.
They're simple yet powerful steps. Like you say, cleaning your sleep routine up and your sleep environment up, that's free. Changing the modality of, I don't need to wear stress as a badge of honor. Actually, I'm just really good at suffering. Just changes like, well, actually, I don't really think I need to suffer. And those are all free. So you don't have to go and spend X hundreds of pounds on different bits and pieces. Like for me, getting into ice baths, I was like, right, okay, what's it going to be for me? Like, what am I going to gauge? Am I going to feel a massive rush? Am I going to feel alive? Where I've always been able to get up quite early in the morning with opening gyms and different bits and pieces and having little kids. But for me, the ice bath I gained was actual mental clarity of just calming my brain down and just being able to focus and breathing in the cold. As soon as I let a thought come in, I'm like, this is like needles on my body. But then I didn't necessarily feel the rush or the endorphins that a lot of social media posts would talk about. You've done a fair amount, and getting down to zero again doesn't really matter what temperature you get to. It's where you battle at your own levels. What was sort of some of the biggest things that you found from ice baths?
So I think initially to get me from 10 degrees to kind of 5 or 6 degrees, when hating it, I thought about tough times in my life is what I thought about. That was my mindset. It was like, well, this isn't as hard as what that person went through. This, and that's kind of how I used it. It might not be the right way. It's not what I do now, but it's the narrative I have to tell myself. It's like, what's 1, 2, 3 minutes in this water really, is it that difficult? Is it really that difficult? And then once I start getting the confidence of actually longer, I don't look at time so much anymore. It's very much where my breath is controlled. But actually, it's that narrative shift of you don't have to do any of this stuff. Is getting to do it. I get to manage my emotions better. I get to make myself feel better. I get to, it's that sort of thing. I think the biggest learning is that calm in the chaos. And in terms of life stress, my thing is if you can handle that stress, you can handle life stress better as well. Because comes down to breath work, control that external breath, control that exhale. You can control that. You can conquer a lot. You can change your physiology, change your psychology, and you see things better. We're all in control of our emotions. We have a choice in how we do things. What's 1, 2, 3 minutes of initial discomfort? It's not, because once you understand that, you're all good. If you can
Yeah, and you
find that
can
calm,
control it.
if you can get that calm in that chaos, you can do life better. And that's what we all want to do, right?
Yeah, massive. And again, that's what I found is when you sort of step in, and I did over Christmas when it was sort of frozen, so you had to sort of tap the ice to get in. I was like, "Phew, you know what? I had my normal time that I would sort of try and achieve. I had a little soundtrack on, a little couple of bit of music tracks on. I know roughly that's my breath work. I can focus, and when that music goes off, I know I can get out. So I haven't got an alarm. I don't break it in, but that's roughly where I was going. And I thought, right, okay, I've got to break the ice. This is going to be tough. I'll just put a shorter track on, but initially you step in, I was like, oh, this is like daggers. But again, you just control it, breathe it, and then submerge. It's easier than just tiptoeing in.
Yep.
And again, you feel afterwards, you're like, oh, okay, fine, warm up, roll your arms around. But the feeling then of like, okay, I can achieve that. I can get calmness in chaos. So I can translate that into work or family life or different situations,
For
which,
me, when I
yeah, I
first did
feel
it,
that
I had
as
this
well.
pain. You talk about this in the back of my neck, so my vagus nerve. It was all about fear. That was my drive. It was all about fear. I'm uncomfortable. I'm not in control. After a
Yeah.
period of time of actually learning to control, I never got that back again. So actually, it's a fascinating modality, and I would encourage people to try it. Speak to a coach. There's loads of them out there. Breath work. Get people to help you, and that's it. I think don't get caught up in social media. Don't do it for the gram. Just quietly stay in your lane and just try and do it for the right reasons, which is doing life better.
Yeah. And like I say, we've already spoken about, even if you go grounding, breath work, and then as you get better, you go into it. Like you say, you started with Whoop, you got a little bit of tech, and then it's almost like, oh, it becomes almost obsessive.
Yep.
And I've got to come off of it, change into ultra human. You're like, okay, cool. It changes the information I get. And now I'm like, I'm fairly comfortable with where I am. I know what this really helps me. This gives it. I've got the scores to match it up so I can come away from it. But
Helpful.
again, with somebody's journey coming into it is you don't have to go and be for the gram or for anything else. It's just how do you make you 1% better each day? And I saw a brilliant visual of how little steps can build up. And it was somebody throwing a basketball, trying to throw a basketball as far as they could, or somebody just constantly bouncing it and walking along with it. And I say, actually, that looks far easier than trying to have all of that effort and putting all that barrier to try and launch the ball as far as you can. But somebody's just going bounce, bounce, bounce. I say, that's really cool. Which brings us back into you being, not you personally, but one of your philosophies being unbreakable is the same as being exceptional at suffering, which
Yeah.
you've just said. But what's been one of your most inspiring moments for yourself so far in your life?
It's got to be the Flawed Hero thing. I think it is honestly, I had this 5 month dream. So all these puzzle pieces fitted together. I put a post up and I said, I will be in front of that cine- cinema. And actually, I envisioned it then. And actually, on the night at midnight, it was exactly how I looked at it. We had the Flawed Hero Marathon written on the cinema. Had these, it was just, that's exactly what I thought about. And it's just like not a lifetime's work. It was just many, many years of understanding people. And actually, and it's that to me, it's great, And this year's is even bigger. And I know that I've got a blueprint now for a minimum £250,000 fundraising event going forward every year, minimum.
Wow. For a charity then as
Yeah.
well, that's huge amounts of money into research and supporting families that would be going through that sort of experience or life-changing moment.
That was great. Yeah, the London Marathon with my wife was amazing. That was just super cool. Again, many, many, many years of getting other people on that through the marathon. But to do it as, I associate London Marathon with the fancy dress, with the fundraising and special moments of crossing that finishing line, and to combine all those with my wife, very difficult to replicate. That was wicked.
Yeah, massively. And you've been in fitness and wellness industry for years, but so let's sort of see some of the myths that perhaps can disappear. You've mentioned earlier of nature. We can learn a lot from nature and it can heal us. How you think and the stories you tell us ourselves can shape our lives. Can you share an example of where changing your mindset or internal narrative have really made a difference, or anybody that you've coached that you've helped change their internal narrative?
I think recently with the cold water immersion, I do. I think it's that calm in the chaos. Life is stressful. I think sometimes we need to pause. I think we have the ability to think differently, and we have this stimulus response, the Pavlov's dog's thing. So actually, if we can control the gap, or we can control that time, we can pause that. We'll make much better decisions. So I think breath work is. I think it comes down to the breath work. It's just staying calm. Life is stressful, and we are operating high anxiety, high sympathetic tone. We are go, 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 go. It's like we've got to slow down. We've got to slow down. No one is unbreakable. No one's unbreakable. I think we've got to be kind to ourselves. I think social media isn't always helpful as well. I don't think we see the reality. I think it's tip of the iceberg stuff. I think we need to be more open with what's going on underneath. So I'm not even sure that answers your question, because it's quite a deep question
It's
in
again,
terms of.
yeah, it's very powerful, isn't it? But I think that we've covered quite a bit of it as you've gone through, and you've mentioned some of the guys that have come to your event in the first 40 and things like that. That you can see how your impact has helped them, and on your narrative with you being able to go into the ice bath of, oh gosh, I've got to get out, to okay, cool, I can stay here, and almost it's odd. I think you can only really say it to people who have experienced a certain number of cold exposures that it becomes actually easier and it's almost pleasant, which is really odd. When I say to my wife, I'm just going into the ice bath, she goes, why? She said, you just walk around, it's cold enough outside. I'm like, no, but I get something from it. And she's like, oh, you wouldn't catch me in there. And you're like, well, actually, I wonder if you're missing out.
But you know what? I bet she'd be better at you at doing it. What I found,
Yeah.
women are so much better. My wife and daughter are so much better than I am. They were
Yeah.
just savages. Just much, much, much easier. I think it's controlling emotions. I think they're much more in tune with their emotions and probably able to handle that better.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is amazing.
but yeah,
And obviously,
so we'll just go back to, in terms of, for me, it's getting people to believe. So you talk about the 40 guys that did it last year, 75% of them coming back this year to do it,
wow.
which is great. And it's giving people belief in themselves before they ever thought possible of doing something. This event that I'm doing is full of people that never thought they could do it, were capable, deserving of doing it. And like, I can't wait for the world to see who's doing this. I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's magical. You deal with a lot of first-time runners. What do you reckon is the biggest lesson you've learned about those people? They've come to you and they go, right, I want to run. And I put all this pressure on myself. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from that, really?
It's watching their growth. That actually, it's that point where they realize they're capable of doing more, and actually get to the point where some of them, it's couched to 5K stuff. They get to 5K, they think, well, how am I going to do 10K? They get to a half marathon and they're like, I've got to do twice that. Then you stop them and go, well, hang on a second, look how far you've come. And it's that belief system. And the beauty in what I do is I will be in the crowds of the London Marathon on the day, and people will be calling out my name, which is beautiful. People that I've coached will call my name out and get my attention rather than the other way around. Everyone's calling out them, which for me is beautiful. Like I want nothing from it. It's just that's for me. That's coaching. It's getting people
Yeah,
to control the ego and go, why the time? Why do you have to be a martyr? Why are you spending so much time looking at your watch on numbers rather than actually looking up and actually appreciating what's going on?
yeah,
Cross that finishing line, a better version of yourself, and then
yeah.
with the excitement of what's next.
whilst they're running that or participating in the fun run, it becomes a moment of presentness that they can't then they I suppose they can be on their phone, but it's unlikely they're going to be updating their Instagram profile with a deep and meaningful thought. But they're looking around, there's people cheering, the energy is so vibrant there. And then they cross the finish line, and you're like, okay, cool, I've just had like 5 hours, 5.5 hours, 6 hours, however long it's taken them to do of actual being present time. And that probably endorphin rush on top of, oh wow, I've just achieved the London Marathon is incredible.
It's amazing. I think it's London Marathon. It's promoted as the biggest single day fundraising event in the world, but it's also the biggest single day group therapy session you'll ever be a part of. And I think you do. I think when you're on that course, people are cheering your name, and you are looking at the back of someone's running shirt as to their reason why. It might be someone's partner or child they've lost or something. You just get caught up in that. And I think it's a great day of something I think we're all lacking in the world is community. You have this whole day of there'll be 50,000 people of your little micro community going across the streets of London, but then there's probably 500,000 people lining the streets of London who are cheering your name. That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
But my biggest point would be to people is not get caught up in the ego. Yes, it's great. Remember why you're running, and actually you are a celeb for the day. That's the difference between my marathon. When times are tough, you don't have the crowds to cheer you on. In my marathon, when times are tough, you got to find that inner, that you're going to get that moment of perspective, or that you level up. You have to find, you go through the hard yards. You don't have the crowd to cheer your name. We do have a few cheer points, but it's more, it's dark, it's cold, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? And I think if you can keep on going, that going through that little hurt locker, that bit of pain levels you up, it levels your life up a lot more. And you don't get the come down. You don't get that come down. You cross that finishing line of my marathon. It's like, what else am I capable of? I now know what tiredness feels like. This was what's next.
It's camaraderie, isn't it? A
Yeah,
bit like when you hear sort of people come back from sort of military tours and things like that, that there's that camaraderie where they've gone through quite difficult times, tough times, or even if you see on, I say, different TV programs where they get celebrities or people off the street, there's that camaraderie where they go, okay, drop the ego, drop this, you're here to do it, help your teammate, come together. And it's that sort of community spirit, which, as you say, we're lacking. But if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice at the start of your career, what do you think it would be?
I would probably go down the community angle more. I think I probably would stop trying to be a lone wolf, and really, like, I would have probably created my own little community of coaches and working with people. I think it's finding the right professionals in your network and growing the community more.
Grow the
Um,
community. Oh, yeah.
what else was I saying? Just being very authentic. I think it's showing up. It's not just it's being authentic and doing what you say you're going to do. Being impeccable with your word. It's showing up. It really is showing up.
Each day. We're going to move on to a few quick fire questions now. What's one mindset shift that you could give to somebody to help transform their training or their health?
Tony Robbins, from shifting I have to I get to. It's that of, okay, it's Saturday night, you've got a long run planned on the Sunday morning, you're out with friends, they're all staying out, and you play poor me victim of, I have to go home, poor me, I have to get up early in the morning. You don't have to do anything, it's a choice. You get to go home early, you get to respect your body, you get to have a better night's sleep, you get to get up early, change your life by showing up and improving your health, and you get to change the lives of others through commitment and fundraising for charity. So I think that's quite, I guess, the point where you want to. So from changing the narrative from I have to I get to I want to.
I want to. Yeah, nice. Again, different stages as you get into it. Fine. And what do you think's the biggest risk you've taken so far in your career?
Probably the Flawed Hero Marathon bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I parked a lot of what I was doing before into doing the job on events. I never planned on doing events and also I never planned on doing charity fundraising. And I've kind of combined them all. I'm doing the job of an events team, fundraising team, a lot of work. But actually, I've got a blueprint now. So that
Yeah, to follow.
risk definitely tight, but the reward is there. I think getting caught up in ego earlier on. I was an early adopter of kind of foam rollers and things. So I remember I spent far too much time in 2010, 11 getting patents pending on foam rollers and dual density foam roll and all the rest of it. I think I got caught up in things I shouldn't have had to do and would cost me a lot of money, in fairness.
Yeah. Common fitness rule that most people need to stop following.
I don't think it's quite as simple as calories in, calories out.
Cool. A lot more complicated. What's one misconception that most people have about a marathon training program or regime that drives you the craziest?
At the moment, it's all the algorithm-based training apps that are out there. I won't mention them, but they are populating people's lives with a plan that I think is unrealistic to who they are. I don't think a typical London Marathon runner can get a 16-week plan by just implementing a 5K time, how many times a week they can train, and that is it. It's more complicated than that. My take is I think you need to be educated yourself. I think you need to find out what works for you and take ownership of your own plan, or work with a coach. But I think not following generic training plans, and certainly staying clear, unless you're an experienced runner, of some of these apps.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Again, I just had an image of sort of like a rosebud coming out. You've got all this excitement, all this energy, and you're starting to unfurl. You don't necessarily want to bloom too early and follow it. But actually, if you could go and find a coach or somebody that's done it before and knows how to distill the layers, because even as we've been talking, there's been different layers that have been coming out and layers of different health tech and things where you can start for essentially free and improve your life probably by quite a lot. The same with running. It don't get caught up with perhaps what shoes, what socks, what gels to have or whatever else. It's just, okay, your coach can distill all that information so you don't end up like yourself spending hours and days and weeks patenting for foam rollers. Somebody could have said, you know what, they're okay, but you could be looking at this and make more impact. But I know we've all got to go on that story.
Yep.
And now everybody has their, I suppose, serious side. And then we've had some sort of touching on some of your sort of more funnier sides of things with your hallucination where you're doing that. But most people might not know. But in 1994, you played some football with a famous person.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So I was okay at football when I was younger. Highlight was in 1994. Yeah, I'm not old now, but yeah, I represented Great Britain in the World Five-a-side Championships. Reebok were doing a World Five-a-side Championships, and we came third in the world behind Brazil. So we played in Orlando, Florida, and in that team, I only found out a few years ago that I was playing against Kaka. He's one of the guys we played against, and actually, I've got one in the paper from my local paper. I've got a black and white image of me actually handing off Kaka as I'm running
Really?
past him. Yeah, it's cool. So he went on to bigger and better things, obviously, impacted the
Yeah.
world well, and hopefully I'm doing the same in my little world. But yeah, played against Kaka back in 1994.
Wow. Phil, this has been an incredible conversation. And before we wrap up, where can people come and connect with you and get involved with the Flawed Hero Marathon?
Probably on Instagram. I'm at Phil Roberton. No S, no Robertson. It's at Phil Roberton. Drop me a note if it's an event full of perspective. You don't have to be a runner to do this. This is the people's marathon. I can still get people in doing it this year. At the worst, it's a long walk. But I think if anyone's having a tough time, anyone needs a bit of therapy, if anyone's linked to Pancreatic Cancer UK, just get in touch. Just get in touch.
Yes.
I'm well
Yeah.
supportive. And yeah, give me a shout.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And one last question before we go, because it's bring it on. If someone's struggling right now with motivation, what's one piece of advice you would give them to help keep them going?
Just start moving. I think recognizing that it's as simple as moving. It's one foot in front of the other. It's relative. Just get out and walk. Get a playlist. Listen to a podcast. Move and celebrate that. Stop telling yourself stories from the past that are keeping you there. I think the past needs to stay in the past. It needs to be acknowledged, respected, but you got to leave it there. If you spend too much time there, the story changes, and it may or may not have ever happened that way. So for me, it's if you're not motivated, come and join my marathon or pick an event. I think the best thing to do is probably pick an event that excites you. It could be a 5K, 10K, a hike. It doesn't matter what the event is. Pick an event, get some people to do it with you, and raise money for charity. Because that's what I'll do. You're then accountable. You're motivated. You'll be disciplined, and you'll have a network there as well.
And you have that purpose, which
Yeah.
which pretty much everything we've spoken about is know your why or purpose.
Exactly.
But Phil, thank you so much for today. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you.